So let's look at some examples of rape culture. Blaming the victim, she asked for. How often do we hear that? Trivializing sexual assault by saying boys will be boys. Sexually explicit jokes where women are the punchline. Tolerance of sexual harassment, suggesting that women just quit their jobs if they don't like the way they're treated, rather than dealing with the perpetrators of harassment. Inflating false rape report statistics. Now, oftentimes, when we're in class, I usually ask you guys, as a student, what do you think the percentage of false rape reports are? And I'll get a variety of numbers. I've got numbers as high as 50%. And I'll say to a student, so you're suggesting for every 2 rapes reported, 1 is a false report? Because that's what 50% suggests. The actual rate of false reporting is 2 to 5%, which means 95 to 98% of rapes actually occurred. So rather than focusing on the small percent that may have been a false report, I think we would do better if we focus on the actual majority of rapes that actually happened. Publicly scrutinizing the woman's dress, the victim's dress, mental state, motives, and history. What were you wearing? Why were you out that late? What were you drinking? How much did you have to drink? Were you flirting? Were you acting a certain way? You know, these are questions that some defense attorneys actually ask women. And despite the 1994 Violence Against Women Violence Against Women Act that was passed by Congress and was commandeered by Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, they had laws that were passed that were called rape shield laws. So you can't ask a woman about her sexual history, but trust me, defense attorneys still find a way to impugn a victim's sexual history. Pressure on men to score. So when you're telling a young man, hey, to be a real man, remember our characteristics of masculinity? This idea that men should be sexually experienced and sexually virile and sexually active? Well, there's a lot of pressure on young men to prove that they can get, quote unquote, lucky with the ladies. So if he takes her out for a meal and he spends a lot of money on her, he feels like he's owed something. And if he doesn't get sexual favors in return, then she's playing them or treating them like a joker or a sucker or whatever the case may be. Pressure on women not to appear cold. There are a lot of young women who will second guess that feeling that comes over you when there's something about a guy that you just can't trust. There's something about him that's creeping you out. There's something about him that makes the hair on the back of your head, of your neck, stand up. But you ignore it. And you say, oh, I'm just being paranoid. I'm just acting hysterical. Relax, calm down. This is a nice looking guy. He's young. He's not going to do anything to me. There are many a victim of a sexual violent act that live to regret second guessing that deep feeling. I call it the spidey senses are tingling. So never second guess a feeling, an intuition that you have about a person. Trust that, because more likely than not, you're right. Assuming only promiscuous women get raped. There are actually people that believe that if a woman is, morally upstanding, there's no way she could be the victim of a sexual assault. She must have been doing something. She must have done something to provoke the guy. That's not true. You have girls as young as 3 and 4 years old that are victims of sexual violence. You've got 90-year-old women who get raped. It's not about being promiscuous, and it's not about being sexually conservative. Rape is an act of violence in which sex is experienced as violence by the victim. Refusing to take rape accusations seriously. In Wayne County, Detroit, there were 11,000 rape kits that were found rotting on shelves in an abandoned warehouse. And this discovery of untested sexual assault kits happened all over the country. There's actually a really good documentary about it called I Am Evidence. If you get a chance while we're on this, I call it the coronavirus break from school, you might want to check it out. Teaching women to avoid getting raped instead of teaching men not to rape. We got to stop talking to the victims, and we have to start talking to the perpetrators. We don't need women being told, don't park here, don't go there, be in before it's late outside, so forth and so on. We do this all the time, but we're not telling men, just don't rape. We have to talk to our young men and we have to tell them no means no. You have no right whatsoever to touch a woman without her explicit permission. And if she refuses, you respect that. If she changes her mind, you respect it. Those are examples of rape culture.